All right, well, here we are. We're back at Highland Fairview. I think this, as long as Ido and Moses will have us, Ido Benzivi, Highland Fairview World Logistics Center, I think that this is going to be our permanent location for our future market forecast. I just love this place. Even though it's limited on space, I don't think I could fill an 800 room or an 800 people ballroom anymore in today's world. It's either me or it's too easy to watch it on video. So at any rate, welcome guys. I appreciate you coming. So I was a little bit worried if Chris Thornburg called me at 7 something to tell me something had fallen off his car, like a manifold or a muffler. He's coming out to set the story straight. So I'm like, oh shit, that's just great, because for those of you, by the way, are you coming up here to say something?
No, I gotta go to.
All right. No, this way. By the way, if you do have to use the restroom, if you haven't found it yet, it's right through there. Just go past the kitchen and you'll run right into it. So Chris calls me and says, oh, something's falling off my car. And I'm like, this is awesome. Anyway, he Ubered and he's on time and it's great. So, Amber knows the panic attack I was having. I'm like, this is great. So who's attended more than one of these forecasts that I put on? Who's attended more than 5 or 10? Okay, so I think this is 15. Do we have any OGs that have gone back that far? Okay, Todd and Leap. Okay, so this is the deal. Thank you. We've been doing this. I'll give you a little bit of history of what we're doing, and you're gonna have to bear with me. I'm gonna take maybe 25 to 40 minutes and just kind of share with you what's going on in our world. But I normally do that anyway, so I might take a few more liberties this morning. But we've been doing this event for 15 years. And in part, we started doing this event because I was chasing Chris Thornburg and a whole bunch of other economists whose name I forgot. And I was literally chasing them all over the country, going to Dallas and going to Florida and going to the REO stuff and trying to figure out what's going on in this real estate market so I can plan my business accordingly. And I was literally spending thousands of dollars on hotels and conferences, and all I wanted to do was see Chris speak for 45. There was more than that, but the main goal was I wanted to go see Chris speak. And it was a little different 15 years ago. It wasn't like, not that there wasn't YouTube and availability, but it was more difficult to gather that access and that data. So I'm literally traveling all over the country. And by the way, this is 20 years ago. And then I said, screw this. I could probably call Chris and maybe just have him come speak to me individually, and it might be less expensive than traveling to, Dallas or Hollywood, Florida, or whatever the heck it was. So at any rate, Chris and I connected probably 15 years ago. And he did it was either 14 or, it doesn't matter. And he did our first, which we didn't call it real estate market forecast. It was just a business planning event. And none of you were invited unless you worked at Coldwell Banker Town and Country. And for me, it was strictly business planning because I'm obsessed with business planning. Because I'm trying to run a business, and this is a difficult business. So, and then after we did that for 2 years, I don't know who it was. It might have been Drake or Drew or Paul or somebody said, well, this is kind of cool, and we're spending all this money to do this event, and we're renting a ballroom anyway. Why don't we just invite the world? So for the last 12 or 13 years, we've opened it up, and this is what we're doing. So for me personally, I'm not in the event business. I don't do events. I don't organize well when it comes to, I like to think I organize well, but I'm not an event planner, so there's always some challenges with these things. This is strictly 100% business planning for me. So I'm looking at our audience today. It looks like most of the people in the audience, we used to get a little bit of everybody. We get some buyers and sellers and investors and some of our contacts and clients in our property management side, but mostly real estate folks. Real estate agents, lenders, title, escrow kind of stuff, so industry people. And so it's been nice. It's been a nice opportunity for me to connect with some people that I don't see all the time. To be blunt, it's a wonderful branding opportunity for us. A little bit of a, I think there's probably, I get more people that comment on, hey, how's your snapshot going, or when's your next forecast, than I do that, hey, I saw your for sale sign up, or I saw this, or I saw that. So at any rate, that being said, for those of you that have been paying attention, the Coldwell Banker logos are gone. Who didn't notice that? Okay, hey, Todd. If we just talk for 5 minutes. Okay, for those of you that have really been paying attention, I do a monthly market snapshot in Adam, I don't know, Adam's somewhere around here, and I post that. And if you were really paying attention, you probably would have noticed about 6 months ago that the Coldwell Banker logos came off of that market snapshot video. So I'll just give you a brief summary. Some of you in this room already know this because we've been talking about it for the last 24 hours. But, and I'm not going to drone on about it, but this is kind of a coming out party for me, so to speak, and for Drew and Drake and Paul and our entire office. So I'm only allowed to say this twice, otherwise Drew's going to throw something at me. But for example, we were talking just a minute ago, Rose. I believe that the legacy franchise brands are broken. Coldwell Banker is an awesome brand. So is Keller Williams. So is RE/MAX. So is Prudential, whatever it happens to be. But our business is broken as a broker owner side. That being said, and by the way, this is not, many of you have heard me say this for a decade. So at any rate, so we made a business decision. And our business decision, well, I have nothing bad to say about Coldwell Banker, I will not, but the business decision was actually made about 7 years ago that we got to do something. And we can talk later if you guys have any interest as to why it took 7 years, but it took 7 years. So anyway, so here we are. So we're very excited. We are now affiliating with eXp Realty. Having said that, I made an announcement a couple of days ago to a small group of agents, and I apparently misspoke. And I had somebody say, oh my God, so you're stepping back and you're not going to be doing anything, and you and the boys are going to go off to Mexico and run the dune buggies, and you've sold your company. And I'm like, no, did I say that? I hope I didn't say that. That is not what we're doing. We are, frankly, we want to grow, we want to expand, we want to take what we currently have and basically make it larger. Our office space is not going away. So I was talking to Rose about, no, Moreno Valley office, brick and mortar, yep. Claremont, brick and mortar, yep. Covina, yep. Who knows? Maybe you'll see some office space in Newport Beach coming soon, or down in Palm Desert, or whatever it happens to be. So our intention is to grow just under a different structure, under a model that we think is more conducive to us. And nothing bad about Coldwell Banker. They're a great brand. We've had a 20, I don't even know how long, 24-year run. Very, very long time. So at any rate, just wanted to kind of let you know where we are and what's going on. My phone and I literally had to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. My phone is blowing up with me. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? So all of Chris's presentation is going to be, so for those of you that like the slides and you got your cameras up, you don't have to take cameras of any of the slides here. Just you can hit that QR code. I'll bring the QR code up again later. So I'll give everybody a second to grab it. But all of the presentations for today, and quite honestly, if you're like, wow, when was the last market forecast? Chris Thornburg said interest rates could be above 9%, didn't he, Vicki? Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, Vicki made news. So if you missed that, you're like, well, what? Well, the video's on there. You guys can go watch it, and frankly, I have every single video, well, not every single one. I don't have 15 years, but I probably got 12 years of all the forecast videos and all the presentations going back for 12 years, and they're all on that QR code. So take pictures of the slides if you want, but you don't have to. Okay, so Chris is going to be coming up. Who was here in September, by the way? Oh, just a few of you. Okay. Well, we got off schedule with we've always done our forecast in the month of March for a bunch of stupid reasons. The last 2 years, our dates were a little off. So Chris spoke in September, but now we're back in our March time slot. But again, you can watch that. So, by the way, Chris is our only guy speaking today. I'm going to do a little bit. We'll probably take a 3 or 4 minute break after I'm done to get Chris's thumb drives queued up for his presentation. But anyway, Chris is going to do his thing. If you were here in September, I think his presentation was an hour and 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and we did another half hour of Q&A. So we don't have a timeline with him. So we're just going to let him rip and do his thing. And if you haven't seen him recently, he's got a lot to say. So we also did some in-studio interviews. Manfred Kyle spoke at a couple of our forecasts and kind of did one of them when we were in the COVID situation. So I interviewed Manfred, 10 days ago. If you don't know Manfred, I don't even know what his title is, to be honest with you. I put Chief Economist, Claremont McKenna College. but he's associated with the Inland Empire Economic Partnership, and he's got a whole bunch of other different names behind him. But I normally refer to Manford as kind of the chief economist at Claremont McKenna. I think they're kind of a big deal. We have an office in Claremont, which is kind of cool. So anyway, we did a 45-minute interview a couple weeks ago. That video was posted. He's not going to be here today, by the way. But if you want to see that, that video was posted, and you can find it on that QR code. By the way, for those of you that are clicking around on your phone, if you hit that button, it's going to start playing, and he's going to start talking. So I'll hear you if you're playing around in the background. So anyway, so Manford's there. His slide deck is there. Did anybody go see him speak about 2-3 weeks ago? Okay, Amber. Okay, well. Again, it's Inland Empire Economic Partnership. That's such a mouthful. And all right, his slide deck from that presentation is also on the QR code. Okay, so if you want to see what he has to say and all the rest of that sort of stuff, his slide deck and his presentation is there. We also interviewed Nick Manfredi. Well, I thought was going to be here. Nick's an investor. I've known Nick for a very, very long time. I enjoy talking to Nick because he has an opinion and he is deep into it. I agree with him about half the time, but he's an interesting cat, and a lot of our audiences, frankly, are people like Nick, so his interview's there if you want to take a peek at that. Mark Dowling, the CEO of Inland Valley Association of Realtors, he's kind of our industry guy. A lot of stuff going on in the industry. I think there's a lot of realtors here, just with the lawsuits and the compensation settlements, and I'll pause here for a minute. By the way, I've had a couple of people text me, are you leaving Coldwell Banker because Robert Refkin at Compass has bought you guys and lost his mind? The answer is no. That is not why we're leaving Coldwell Banker. Mark and I talk a little bit about that. But if you are an industry person and you're wondering what is going on with all of this, off-market listings and private listing sources, and we're going to silo listings. I have a very strong opinion about all of that. Not going to talk about it today. But, Mark and I chat a little bit about that sort of stuff. And by the way, if you want to know what my opinion is, I won't keep it a secret. I think it's freaking stupid hey, we're going to keep our listings over here, and if I want to see them, you got to go over here to see them. It's just ridiculous. But at any rate, so Mark and I talk a little bit about that, and his video is there. And then any landlord tenants in the room? Handful of you. A large portion of what we do and what we have done, I was going to say at Coldwell Banker, it's going to take a minute, but we also run a property management firm, and thank God my mother 37 years ago or so got us into the property management side. For the most part, Drake, my youngest son, has been running it for several years, and Drew and I bounce in every now and then and screw stuff up. But we've got a fantastic property management firm, which is growing as well in an interesting way. One of the reasons the EXP relationship also fits very, very nicely within our property management relationships. It gives us the ability to expand and grow a little bit. I mention that because Barry O'Connor, if you are in that world and have a landlord-tenant issue, in my opinion, there is only one eviction attorney in the Inland Empire, and that's him. And we basically go through all the landlord-tenant related stuff, and you can watch that interview as well. And I love Barry; he's awesome. So I'll just quickly go through our sponsors. Thank you very much to Chris and Beacon. He's not really a sponsor; I have to pay him actually. So maybe I should take him off the sponsor. Thank you for everybody at Rivco. You guys are awesome. I didn't hear that. Anyway, I want to thank everybody at Rivco and Amber and her team and all the rest of that. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you supporting us. Orange Coast Title, our partner. I know they can't sponsor. Not sponsor. They are our affiliate partner. So I saw Annette and Gloria. Did I see Annette? I know Gloria's here. And where's Annette? Oh, right next to you. That ain't Annette. Stop it. So at any rate, Orange Coast Title, we love them, have a relationship with them. They're awesome. James at J. Hilburn is here. He's got some clothes over here. He'll show you if you want to buy some clothes. We're still operating our escrow company. We operate as Cobalt Escrow. That's going to continue, and we love them. And our property management company is Cobalt Property Management. So I'm going to take the next few minutes to run through. Oh, one other quick thing we're going to do. Chris Thornburg and I have been talking for a while, and some of you in this room might be somewhat responsible for this. In the past, at our market forecast events, I'm a political guy. Who's like a political guy or gal? I mean, I can't get enough of it. I mean, I'm just obsessed. I mean, CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and BBC. I'm nonstop 24/7. You know, YouTube channel at home. I got the 4 news channels on there. Seriously, I mean, that's me. All right. So having said that, over the last probably 7, 8, 9, 10 years, probably the last 10 years, at almost every single market forecast we have done, I've had a political guy come in. You know, a senator, you know, not a U.S. senator, but a state senator, state assembly person, a couple council people. And 2 years ago, when we had our event at Cal Baptist, I had Bill Essayli come in. Everybody familiar with Bill Essayli? Not going to take a poll on whether you love him or hate him. But by the way, apparently there's no in between. You either love Bill or you hate Bill. And I got a lot of bullshit flack from people that I respected that said, you can't have him speak at your event. And I'm like, excuse me? And they said, you can't have him speak. And I said, okay, he's speaking for sure now. So at any rate, so I've done that for a while, and I mean, we're in a very politically divided world. It's horrible. I'm not happy with that. So what I've decided to do is I want to continue to do that sort of stuff, but we're going to do a separate event. So we're going to see how this goes. So after the June primaries, and we're in an election year, of course, we are going to attempt to do our very first 2026 real estate and politics event, which will not be anything to do with market data. It was going to be politicians. I've got a couple county, San Bernardino County Supervisor, Riverside County Supervisor, a couple assembly people, maybe some more local people. But we are going to talk politics, but we're not going to talk like politics. We're going to talk politics as it relates to real estate. How are we going to build housing? What are we going to do to build housing? What can we do to help housing? So if you have any interest in that at all, mark your calendar for sometime in the end of June or after the June primaries. And I'm kind of excited about it. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so I'm going to this is my monthly snapshot that I do. I'm going to take about 10 minutes and go through this. And then we're going to bring up Chris, which will give him at least an hour and a half to do his presentation and questions. So we'll have plenty of time to hear Dr. Thornburg. So who sees my monthly snapshot stuff? Okay, that's actually more than I would have expected. Awesome, that makes me feel good. So this is what I think's going on. Okay, so I'm going to give you my 2 cents worth of what I think's going on, but I'm only going to give you basically, I do 4 counties worth of data. Truth be told, I don't pay nearly as much attention to Los Angeles County or Orange County. I don't have that much business in LA or Orange. I mean, I have certainly some, but as a 4-county thing, so I've been doing this for, I don't know, years and years and years. So this is what's going on price-wise and why I think it's important. So this is median price. For those of you that don't like median price and you prefer average price, fine, we can do average price. This is just median. The charts basically look the same. If you look at this is 15 years of data, by the way. If you are a data person and you like this data, when you hit that QR code, you'll take it to that. You can click on this. You can't, you could do it on your phone, right? And it'll literally give you the chart. They're live charts. You can hover your mouse over it. You can take a look at it, and you can go back for 15 years worth of stuff. So basically, median price since January, February has increased a little bit. However, you may see some headlines in the media now that says, median price year over year has dropped. It has. February to February, and that's LA, Riverside, San Bernardino County. It's basically flat. To me, whether it's up 1% or down 1% is irrelevant, because check back in a week or check back in a month, then they could be up 1 point or 2 points or down 1 point or 2 point. But basically, the property values are flat, but there is some of that, oh my gosh, property values have dropped. Sure. Again, check with me in a month. I have zero concern about, any property value serious, downgrade in property values. I was going to say price destruction. I said that once in front of Chris, and he said, "A little dramatic, aren't you? We're price destruction." Good Lord. But at any rate, the prices are what they are. Basically, they're stable. I love stable. COVID wasn't stable. 20% appreciation in 2020, 20% appreciation in 2022 is not good. These are new listings. This is kind of interesting. You see the EKG going on over there. The month of January was awesome. We had a whole bunch of brand new listings hit the market in January. And then if you look at the tail end of that, not so much for February. Those people that were waiting to sell their house, they waited through the holidays. They listed it in January, and then I guess they decided in February that they'd pull back a little bit. If you're concerned about that, don't be, because if you go through and you take a look at 15 years of that, damn near every single month, January goes up for new listings and February comes down. It's just how it is. And it might not feel right, but that's how it is. And then normally in March it goes back up, barring wars in Iran and a whole bunch of other stuff. So these are new listings, but they're down. And if you're a real estate practitioner, you know that. This is year over year, February to February listings in the 4 counties, down 15%, 20%, 17%, 17%. So we have an inventory problem. No, we don't. What I believe has happened is a lot of those sellers that came on the market last year, they weren't getting what they were expecting, basically offers at the price they wanted, and they said, we're just not going to sell. So what I believe, if you're in the real estate business, if you have a listing now and you price it right, you have a real seller, you're actually going to sell the house. We had a lot of people that were on the market last summer that were not real sellers. They would sell if you get me this, we're going to go. Otherwise, we don't have to go because we're not getting divorced. Our job's not in threat. We have a ton of equity. I'm not in foreclosure. Even though the listing count's down, to me, it's not a big deal. By the way, that chart was new listings. Those are brand new listings for the month of February. This next chart is all the listings lumped up together. And again, you can see that they're down a little bit, but just go to the next chart. Again, for the same reason, they're basically down 7 to, call it, 15% in the 4 counties. Big deal. To me, that's meaningless. Having said that, if you are a realtor in this business, price your listings right. Show them this data and say, hey, price your listing right, and it's going to sell. Otherwise, let's not fool around. The month supply of inventory is basically between 2 and 4 months. Not a big deal. I don't listen to much of anything the National Association of Realtors says, but they have said since I've been in this business, a 6-month supply of inventory is healthy. I can't remember. Actually, I guess I can remember the last time we had a 6-month supply, and it was, somewhere in here. So let's call it a decade ago. And then we had a few more months supply back here, right, Vicki? That was just all the foreclosures and the REO stuff. Days on market is up, but it's no big deal. San Bernardino's 2 months. Orange is 38 days. Get used to it. No big deal. The days of getting 35 offers and selling your house in 3 days, those are gone. But again, that's good. This is the biggest pain point for me. Chris, by the way, when Chris and I have become friends over the last several years, but even before that, we never talk about what he's going to talk about. So, and if we did, and I'd say something, I told him 2 years ago, he had an interest rate thing. And I saw it. I don't remember what it was. He was like, I think rates are going to be at 7%. And then we went to another event, and rates were like significantly lower than 7%. And the forecast was rates were going to be significantly lower than that. And I said, hey, dude, you might want to change your thing. He wasn't listening, apparently. So at any rate, he didn't change his thing, and I was in the back of the room. I'm like, oh, shit, he was right. Everyone else was wrong. That was just one of those little itty-bitty blips where the interest rates were low for like 2 weeks, and he didn't change his forecast because he doesn't do that. And he'll tell you, I ain't doing that. This is what I got. If you don't like it, go find somebody else. Having said that, I don't know if he has anything on pending sales, but this is the biggest pain point that I've been talking about for probably the last 3 years in the real estate business. We're just not selling enough houses. It's horrible. I mean, it's absolutely horrible as far as the volume of homes we're selling. In California, last year we sold about 270,000 houses. In decades past, that number was 450,000. It's big numbers on the which, by the way, that's how we operate our business. Who is actually depends on opening an escrow, closing an escrow, opening a loan, closing a loan, doing a title, escrow. Raise your hand. I'm asking for some participation. Okay, well then this is true. This is true. So if you're just in the median of all the realtors or escrow officers or title officers or loan officers, unless you're just extraordinary, your volume is probably down between 30 and 50% from what it was during COVID and pre-COVID. So it's brutal. It is what it is. It doesn't seem to want to continue. These are the numbers year over year, which, by the way, NAR, I think, just put something out, and it says, oh, well, the pending sales are up a little bit or down a little bit. Those are closed transactions. I'm not talking closed transactions. It's a different category. These are the actual number of buyers and sellers that are coming together in any given month, okay? And by the way, this is not my data. This all comes from CRMLS. So anyway, the pending sales are brutal. Anybody follow Realtor.com on Facebook or Instagram? I didn't realize that I did, but this popped up yesterday. Total home sales in 2025 were the weakest in 14 years. That's nationally, I'm assuming. Weakest in 14 years? I've been doing this for 38 years. I think it's the weakest in 38 years. So, but at any rate, that's from Realtor.com. This is an interesting one. Give me 2 minutes and then I'll wrap up here and we'll pass it over to Chris. Some of you may know Drew and myself and Drake and the Martin Group through some of the foreclosure business that we've done in the past. I kind of made my name and frankly made my money selling foreclosures with a few of you in this room. After that was done, we transitioned to some hedge funds. And again, I don't know if Chris has any info on this. We didn't talk about it in advance. But all these evil, horrible hedge funds, these horrible people in Wall Street that have bought all these houses and destroyed our real. By the way, I'm being facetious. Tongue firmly planted in cheek. I don't believe any of that. Maybe many of you in this room do. Oh, these guys have ruined the market. Well, my experience, because some of these were our clients. Who was a real estate agent in 2010, let's say? Okay, I got a few of you. If you had a listing in 2010, was it hard to sell? The answer is yes. Okay? If Drew came to you with an offer from a hedge fund that said, I'll give you all cash for your home, were you thankful to have an all-cash buyer and close it? Okay? Having said that, if somebody else had showed up and said, I'd like to buy it, and I'll give you $2,000 more. Would you have sold it to that buyer? Of course you would have. Those buyers didn't exist. Those buyers were not there. So we want to beat up on all of these investors who bought these properties. In my opinion, number one, we all should have bought those properties. All of us, everybody should have been buying those properties. But we were afraid. They weren't. They bought them. The consumers didn't. And frankly, they saved the market. So why am I telling you that story? Because a lot of those hedge funds, including some of the clients that Drew and Drake and I have today, have these properties all over the country. You guys know about this. It's the reason the market sucks. I don't agree about that at all. Is there some inventory that otherwise would be on the market that's not? Sure. But incrementally, it's a pretty small amount. Having said that, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. The Trump administration is talking about basically forcing some of these institutional buyers who have been holding properties on the build to rent side and said, you got to sell them in the next 7 years. I think this is in front of the legislature right now in Washington. And it sounds like it's possible it's going to, which by the way, I think is bullshit. I'm a property rights guy, If I bought a house, market value, I want to sell it or I want to rent it, I don't know. But others may feel differently. Having said that, this will be very interesting. If this passes, it's going to be very, very curious to see if it does actually unload some inventory and whether there's actually an opportunity for some of this inventory to come to market. One of the reasons I put this slide up here is 2 weeks ago, one of our clients who does this called and said, can you sell homes in Nevada? We got 160 of them. We need to sell. And I'm like, damn straight I can sell homes in Nevada. I'll be right there. By the way, thank you, EXP. That makes it a lot easier. So at any rate, it will be very interesting to see what happens with this. Because if this does pass, and I think there's some momentum, it might be challenged as unconstitutional. I have no idea. But at any rate, it'll be very interesting to see what this does with inventory. So I'm keeping a close eye on it to the degrees that you guys care. You might want to. I'm not going to talk about interest rates. We'll let Chris talk about that, other than to say in September, my good friend Vicky Carpenter asked Chris a question. I don't remember what it was. You can watch the video if you want. And Chris said, I could see interest rates at 9.5%. And the entire room went, oh! Not tomorrow, in a few years. And then, of course, he can expound on that today and speak for himself. But you got to remember, on video, during COVID, interest rates were 3.5%, 4%. And Chris said, I could see interest rates at 7%. And I'm like, you are full of shit. Why do I have you speaking at my thing? And then 2 years later, interest rates are 7%. So, frankly, that's why I keep bringing Chris back every single time. Now, I hope he's wrong on this one. I don't want to see 9% interest rates. I hope he's wrong. But we shall see what he has to say and what's going on, and we'll go from there. All right, so my forecast is basically flat. And by the way, my forecast is strictly residential real estate in my little marketplace. Draw a 35, 40-mile radius around where we are right now. Price is flat, inventory flat, sales volume flat, mortgage rates flat. Boring year, but, boring's fine. So I'll tell you what, we're going to take there's that QR code. I'll leave that up for just a second. We're going to take about a 3 to 5 minute break. So if you guys grab a bottle of water, hit the restroom, we're going to get Chris's presentation up, and we're going to let him rip. All right?